Racing is a very high stress sport, and just a quick prayer saying, Lord, just take the stress off my shoulders and, just help me. And, it helps out a lot in racing, and it helps me out a lot for sure because when I get into the car and I start thinking a lot and I say a prayer, it kind of just takes all of that off my shoulders. And, then it's like, well, I'm just going to go out there and drive. What happens, happens.
All right, well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of FastFaith, where speed meets the spirit. I'm getting back to our home track now of Bowman Gray, and I'm sitting down with Mr. Ethan Truell. Did I say it correctly?
You said it right.
All right. I've been practicing that for the last couple of days now, making sure I can say it correctly. He's a young guy that's making his way in the modified ranks of Bowman Gray and other tracks in the surrounding areas. And Ethan, what got you into racing? Where did it start for you?
It started, early. I think I was 4.5 when I first got into a go-kart. My dad always raced, so kind of something I wanted to try. And when I was a younger kid, I wanted to try everything. So I played about every sport you probably can. But racing's been kind of different in my life, and it's just really now it's a really big part of my life, and it's what I focus on every day. But starting out early, 4.5, and my dad bought me a go-kart, and I started playing with it, and I think I wrecked it a couple times, and then I got drove over top of one night, and my mom said, no, I don't want to do this anymore. So she pulled the plug on that, and then a little bit after that, my family kind of went away from racing a little bit, and we took about a 7 to 10 year break away from racing, but that's kind of how I got started.
That's cool. What is it about these big cars that you like versus the cars with fenders on them?
So I've drove a couple late models, and honestly, I kind of feel like driving a late model is like driving a boat compared to a modified, which I drove legend cars for a while, and I won a couple of races. And the legend cars are very identical to these cars, very twitchy and very fast. So I enjoy driving these a little bit more than the fender cars, just because they're just funner to drive. I have a little bit more fun driving these cars, and so that's just kind of the direction we took, was to go into the open wheel stuff and just mess around with these cars.
In the racing world, we know that it's a very high pressure, high intensity, lots of, results driven kind of thing. As somebody that's so young, how do you keep your demeanor so well? I mean, I caught on to you because you got coffee written on your car, and anything that's got coffee on it, I'm going to pay attention to because I love coffee. But like, how do you keep yourself so down to earth? You're not one of the drivers at Bowman Gray that if you do get spun out, you're not somebody that drives back around and hooks them or hits them or gets out trying to fight. What do you think it is that helps keep you calm in the car and out of the car at the track?
Um, you know, when we have rough nights, which racing at the stadium, it could bring out the worst in you some nights. You could be running, feel like you're on top of the world, and then next time you're on the double hook. So, it's hard sometimes to keep yourself and not get frustrated because you get took out running third or something, or the officials made a bad call. But, at the end of the day, I look at it and I'm like, God has a plan for me, so he's going to take it, and I can't get frustrated. So whatever happens, happens. And I try and take, a calm path on everything, and sometimes I can get frustrated, but that's just a part of being alive and being a human. You get frustrated over things, but I just kind of calm down after a little bit, and just kind of just sit back and look at the good things that could come from it.
Yeah. So when you're in the car, this is a conversation I had with other drivers and stuff. When you're in the car, other than hearing your spotters, your crew, your family, whoever else may be on there, it's just you. Do you find like a peace and calmness even with all the chaos that's going on during a race? Do you still feel like this is where God wants me at, behind the steering wheel? This is where I belong. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Do you feel like a peace on that? Like,
you know, um, just being behind the wheel of a car, and sometimes in the 200 lap races, I'll be running, or the longer races, I'll be running 10th or somewhere. and I'll be riding, and then I get in my head and I start thinking, like, is this is what I need to be doing right now? And you know, I really do enjoy racing. It's probably my favorite sport that I've done, and I kind of pushed football and wrestling to the side because my freshman year I played varsity for my Oak Grove. I got pulled up to varsity for the playoffs, and my dad wanted me to play football and my family and everybody. So I was kind of pushed to playing football my whole life, and then I got put in the modifieds and or got put into racing, and then everything kind of changed. So I do have a little bit of calmness and realizing that I'm the one controlling everything, and the outcome of the night's really in my hands. So um, you know, I, it's just it's very peaceful sometimes in the car, but I enjoy it.
That's good. That's good stuff, man. What is it when you're when it comes to your faith that you feel like helps you out the most in racing? Um, share a little bit about your faith. Has that always
Mhm.
been something in your life, or is that something that as you've kind of gotten older you've understood more? Or
It's always been something in my life. Younger, I always went to church on Sunday. My grandpa has always been in the church, and he just recently retired from the church, but it's always been in my life. And here recently, over the past couple of years, I've really got, really came back to it, you could say. Kind of wasn't much of a praying person or religious kind of person when I was a little bit younger, a couple years ago. But here recently, kind of got back into it with racing and everything because, racing is a very high stress sport. And just a quick prayer saying, Lord, just take the stress off my shoulders and, just help me. And, it helps out a lot in racing, and it helps me out a lot for sure because when I get into the car and I start thinking a lot and I say a prayer, it kind of just takes all of that off my shoulders. And then it's like, well, I'm just gonna go out there and drive. What happens, happens. So,
yeah,
I'm a strong Christian now, and I'm happy to say it. But this sport really is heavy on your shoulders sometimes, and it takes a lot to do it. So being a Christian and being able to pray and talk to the Lord sometimes is really good and helps me out a lot.
yeah. As a younger person, the conversations that I have with the younger drivers are always different, big time in
Hmm.
comparison to the older drivers. There's a lot of stress that feel like gets put on you younger drivers, even if you're not a driver, just on
Hmm.
young people in general, that a lot of us older people don't understand. Social media,
Yeah, that's
um,
very high.
just a lot of that.
Hmm.
Do you feel that kind of reaching into your faith has kind of helped get you along more, and the way some people may talk or say things about you on social media or even at the stadium or other tracks?
For sure. Sometimes after a rough weekend, we don't even get on social media. We tell my mom we're gonna take her phone away for a week if anything dumb happens, because my mom's a very, she can get emotional sometimes over what people have to say about her baby, I guess. But
Yeah.
you know, it's just the social media is very heavily involved in motorsports, and it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time because you get to promote things like sponsors that help us to be able to race and do things. But the stadium and Bowman Gray is very high social media and a lot of attention. So the lights were really bright when I first started racing at the stadium, and a lot of people didn't even know who I was. So I'll be glad to say at the end of the day that more than half of the people over there know who I am now. Not that I'm a big time race car driver now, but just that I'm a race car driver and I'm respectful to everybody that I can be. But there's a lot of stress that gets put on us, and the social media doesn't help sometimes. But to be able to say a prayer and just get it off of me, it's kind of relaxing.
Yeah. When it comes to the social media in the racing world, like you said, it's good because you can promote sponsors. You
Hmm.
can even grow your brand as to who you are,
Yeah.
get your name out there more. But it is very, for lack of a better way of saying it, disgusting sometimes.
Oh yeah.
It's almost as if people forget that the person they may be talking about is somebody's son, is somebody's husband, is somebody's even wife or daughter or something, because there's so many different,
Yeah.
people that race at the stadium. Getting into kind of maybe more outside of the track, um, how do you handle social media, like for you, that maybe some of the younger people that may watch this, they're not a race car driver, they're not at a stadium at a racetrack every week. What are some things that maybe you do that you feel like could help be applied to them whenever maybe something creeps up in their social media that's causing them to deal with a lot of those stress issues that kind of stuff causes?
One of the biggest things is always try and be positive. Even if you're in a hard situation, maybe financial things, because it's a very money sport, and um, financial problems, or just trying and feeling like you're not being able to get the job done. And this is just it's just like, you just got to stay positive even in those tough times. Like, you just got to stay positive and just promote the things that you can and be thankful for what you have and the opportunities that you get. Social media can help out a lot with getting opportunities. Back in the day, they didn't have that stuff, and I couldn't see not being able to. Yeah, I kind of laugh sometimes on Sunday because I see what people post on Facebook. It's funny.
Sometimes, yeah,
People run
sometimes
their
it
mouth on
can,
Facebook,
sometimes it
and I think
can
it's funny.
cause a laugh or two. Yeah.
Yeah, just the funny stuff. But to the younger kids that are getting into it, just try and be positive and be thankful for what you have and promote what you can to help you get to the next level.
Yeah, that's good. Um, Kind of getting into that a little bit about, you know, back at the stadium and things and laughing at things on social media and stuff. The one thing though that we can kind of look at when it comes to the racing community is that it's basically just a really, really big dysfunctional family. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody kind of puts their differences aside
Hmm.
in different ways, different times, all the time. Of, you may have, but somebody may have felt like they, got ran dirty or something.
Hmm.
But then the next week, you guys all may be together at some kind of
Yeah.
fundraiser or function, hugging each other, giving high fives or whatever. What is it about racing that you feel like, from your experience, from your dad, and then also you, that like just it makes it like a family almost?
So, um, like you said about the next week, you can be buddy buddy again. Um, you know, Normally on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, most people try to forget what happened the past weekend. And try and look towards positive things and moving in to a new weekend. Um, it is a really big family. When we travel around, we go to these different tracks and different places, and we just had like a Bowman Gray race at Ace, so it's like a big family going on a vacation or
Yeah.
something. So it is a big family, and we butt heads sometimes, just like normal family, like we do in the shop here. Me and Dad or somebody might butt heads because we don't agree with one another. It is what it is, but you try and forget about it and move on,
Yeah.
you know, and try to get what you can get out of it. And I try and learn from it a lot and move on. And um, just in how I am at the stadium right now is I'm really just trying to be respectful to everybody because they've been doing it a lot longer than I have. And one of the things my dad told me is I just need to sit back and watch for this first year and just try and figure out who I can race with and who I can't. So, um, it's just, it is like one big family. And, you know, some families might not like one family member, and that's kind of like how the stadium is,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Is there any time, kind of going back to the faith thing, is there any time where you feel like if you didn't have any kind of faith in God, if you didn't have Christ, that like you may handle situations differently at the track, and that you're glad you do have your faith?
oh,
Like,
a
I mean,
hundred
especially at the
percent.
stadium. I know that's
Yes, a
probably like
hundred
every
percent.
week, but
Yeah,
in other
a
circumstances.
100%. Here recently, I've tried to be thankful for the little things, like and at the stadium, it really does help me out a lot. I always carry a cross and pray before the race, and I have a little cross on my dash in the car, and I say a prayer, and it calms me down a lot. And at the end of the day, I'll think about it, and sometimes I'll be like, well, what would the Lord do in this situation? If I'm getting cussed out in the pits right now, what would the Lord do? Well, I'm just gonna go sit in the trailer,
Yeah.
and just try and calm down. So I'm very thankful that I've had that religiousness in my life, and here recently I've got into it very deep, and grew a relationship with the Lord, and it's helped out a lot for sure.
What are what are your goals for your career? Like, where do you see yourself in, I don't know, 5 years or so?
Probably doing this right here. Honestly, we're at a pretty high level right now, and when we first got this car, I think some people thought we were crazy for what we were doing, because I got out of a legend car and hopped into a, you know,
Yeah, that's not the usual path.
no, it's
No,
not, no, no,
that's
and
not the usual path to go from a legend to a
it's
modified.
not.
So
Um, it's definitely not. But one thing I pride myself in is, um, I'm not one of the kids, and I've never been one of those kids that shows up to the track with their helmet and drives. So if I work on it, then and I want to drive it, then I'm gonna do all the effort it takes to be able to drive it, and eventually I'll make it to the top. That's how I look at it. And with modifieds, when we hopped into it, I was like, well, one day I'm gonna have the 101 wins like Burt Myers does. Even
yeah.
if one day I don't, I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna be like, well, that's how I'm gonna do, because that's having a positive attitude and really wanting to strive and be on the next level. Um, but this, going back to 5 or 10 years, um, this is a pretty high level of racing, and it's very expensive just at this level. And to go anywhere else, you really have to bring a lot of money to the table. Not saying that it can't happen, but to go to get an ARCA ride or maybe a truck ride, it's going to take a lot of money, and it does take a lot of success too. Um, you know, there's a lot of drivers that I think that race on, in the truck series or Xfinity series that probably don't have the talent that some of these small teams,
Oh,
like their
easily,
drivers,
definitely, yeah.
have. So I kind of look at it as, if I'm doing the best I can with what I got, and I only make it to a certain level, then that was my path, and that's the way that the Lord wanted me to go. I also think that He brought this car into my life, so that's the path He wanted me to take to in racing. So,
When you're at the stadium
mhm,
and you either get up front or it's one of the longer races with the choose cone or whatever, and you get in one of those restarts and you got somebody like Burt beside you or behind you, or somebody like Tim or even Randy or some of the guys have been
mhm,
around for a long time, lots of wins, lots of respect on the track, but you can kind of beat them going into that first turn on
yeah,
a restart. How does that make
yeah,
you feel? Does that really kind of put that in you of like, I'm not there yet, but I can be? Like I can beat these guys?
for sure. That one night, I think we drew second. I think Randy drew the pole, and I grew up going over there, and Randy's raced over there for tens of, 20, 30 years,
Yeah,
40 years, however long. I think he has the most starts now.
yeah.
And, you know, I was like, well, who drew the pole? And they're like, Randy drew the pole. I'm like, he's going to be tough to pass. And Dad's going to be like, well, just try and get in behind him and just really focus on getting in behind him. I'm like, I think I'm going to try and clear him on the top. And that's what I did. So, I was really happy. And even though that race didn't go our way, we still led 30 or 40 some laps right around there, and had a lot of fun. Um,
That's when you kind of got my attention the
mhm,
most. I mean, obviously, like I said, I noticed your car when I started seeing a coffee car on the track because I love coffee. But when I saw, like, I was always like, okay, I didn't realize that you were as young as you
mhm,
are.
yeah,
So when you were out there, and then somebody was like, yeah, he's only like 15 or 16 or whatever. I'm like, and he's out there whipping
yeah,
these guys because
yeah,
I mean, like everything you had a phenomenal run going that night, and
hmm,
unfortunately, it didn't end the way that you were hoping it would. But I think you kind of showed a lot of the fans in the stadium that night too that
hmm,
you got it, you can do it. You can do what a lot of them on social media may run their
yeah,
mouths when they probably couldn't even figure out how to turn this thing on.
yeah.
Most
Probably
of
couldn't
them,
even get their seatbelts on.
Yeah, they
Most
probably
of
can't even.
them
Some of them might
probably
not even
couldn't
be able
even
to
get
get in through the
started.
window. So
Yeah, yeah, probably. But
I feel like you showed a lot of people that night. You definitely got my attention, especially when I heard how young you were. That I was like, man,
mhm,
this kid's got a very bright future for what can come what can come in the
mhm.
future.
And another thing that I want to shine the spotlight on is this is a family race team. So we don't have the funds like the bigger teams, like Tim Brown does. Not nothing on him, but he's been doing it for 30, 40 years now.
Right.
And, he's got that type of equipment. So when we can take this 10-year-old race car and buy 3 tires and go out there and run good, it makes us happy. We
Right.
kind of feel like it's a win for us. And then when we finally do get that win, it's like, well, man, we're doing really good now. So then, this is a family team, and we work really, 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 really hard, and we just really try and put the effort in because I say to myself all the time, don't be mad at the results that you get from the effort from the work you didn't do. So that means a lot to me, and I try and put all the effort that I can into racing, and you know, and one of the things that Dad told me when I first started out, he told me that you're never gonna have what the other kids have, and I said, well, okay, that's fine, and you know, it's really been tough sometimes to go over there and get outrun by equipment. And I think the last few races we were lucky enough to get a motor that put us on the same level as the other cars. And then I think we qualified seventh that night.
Yeah.
And it was like a really big improvement for us, and we were really happy. Um, but and he always tells me, other things that he always tells me is he says, the Lord gave you this car, so you take it and you do the best that you can with it. I said, okay. And, that's what we've been doing over here and try to do the best that we can and just keep our heads down and, you know.
Well, I think you're definitely getting a lot of attention in a good way
Mm-hmm.
for the races that you've run this year and how you've improved and how you've shown that you can launch it into to
Yeah.
turn one on the outside and take the lead or whatnot over a seasoned
Mm-hmm.
professional and somebody that's a respectable, clean driver like Randy. Um, and I think it's also important too that people realize that it does take a lot of time and
Mm-hmm.
money and blood, sweat, tears, everything to run these cars. And when it is a family team that's doing
Mm-hmm.
it, that doesn't have the even probably a sliver of the budget of
Yeah.
you
The
know
bigger teams.
the bigger teams, it's kind of makes I don't see how people can't be happy for the smaller teams like this when y'all do win and run up front and do good like that and stuff.
And most of the people are like, I see a bunch of comments on Facebook, such and such can't drive. Well, such and such might be running with a 20-year-old race car that's got the 3 link coming out of it or the truck arm coming out of it, and he's trying to do the best that he can with what he's got. And a lot of people don't see that, and I'm not going to say that it upsets me, but it's just I wish people would understand in the stands, which they never will, because they just come and have fun.
Right.
But they come, and you know, some people are doing the best that they can with what they got, and a lot of people tend to say, "Well, you're not underfunded if you can make it to the track." Well, we can make it to the track, but we ain't got the best car. We ain't gonna buy 4 tires this week.
Yeah,
You
but
know.
I was going to say you may be
Mm-hmm.
one cut tire away from
Yeah.
not even being able to run that night,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how much
Yeah.
repairs you may have had the week the week before, what could have gone wrong in the
Mm-hmm.
motor that you've had to do the week before. So yeah, I mean you're exactly right.
You know, um, underfunded is kind of it's a strong word in racing for sure. Um, so to look at the underfunded teams, and I see it myself in the pits, and I see these underfunded teams that can go and run seventh one night, and I'm like, man, they're doing good for what they got. And people in the stands, they don't see that. For people on social media, they don't see that. So, here we're trying to. I'm not saying that we're underfunded at all, but we definitely don't have the budget that the upper teams do. Um,
Well, like you just said, you're running a 10-year-old race car,
mhm,
whereas
yeah.
Tim or Berg or some of those other guys, they may be running a brand new car they just built 2 weeks ago. So
for
It
sure.
does make a big difference. You're right.
It's a very big difference. And under funding, I think we tried like 3 different sets of shocks this year and did everything we could to try and be fast. And then we found the problem that we've been having, and qualifying really means a lot. So you got to have a decent amount of motor over there to qualify good. And we found that out, and I kind of felt like that was hurting us a lot um, at the first half of the season. So you know, it's just I'm not gonna say it's hard, but we put in a lot of hard work to be where we are now. The shocks that are on this car right now actually costed more than my first race car. So we've came a long way for
Yeah.
sure.
What are some things for? I mean, we talked about how to handle social media, but what are some things you would tell a young person who's either in racing that's younger than you? Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I always feel it's weird to say young when I talk to a young
Mm-hmm.
person, but somebody that's younger than you, or even maybe the same age as you, that really wants to get into it. What are some things that you would advise them on? If they're either doing go karts or legends, bandoleros, whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they want to set in a modified or a sportsman or some other kind of late model. What's some advice that maybe some things that you've learned along the way in your years that you could tell them? Like if you could talk to any young person right now, you said when we spoke texting or whatnot, you had some things you wanted to share
Mm-hmm.
that could help out some young people. So share away.
Um, when you first start out, focus on yourself a lot more than the car, because when I first started out, I would show up to the track and I would be a second off and I get lapped 3 times. Well, the car can run fifth that night or seventh that night, but the driver ain't up to par. So when the driver is up to par, then it's time to start focusing on, well, how can we make the car better? If you show up to the track with a neutral car that can run 10th and you run 14th a lap down, well, then you need to focus on how can I be better, my racecraft, so I can drive and drive to the front. You know, um, it wasn't until about 2 years ago where I considered that I actually could drive a race car. I was just I feel like the first year the race car was actually driving me more than I was driving it. So you know, but when I started out, one of the biggest things was just focus on yourself and always stay positive for sure. Stay positive and try things. Biggest thing to do is try things. If it doesn't work, then try something else. But don't stick to the same thing and expect a different result. So just try things and do everything you can. And if you're maybe having a bad night, then just try and focus on the good things that you can learn from that. So for next weekend. So if are running 10th or something and the car's too tight, we'll come back next weekend with a different setup and try it. So it's just about trying things and staying positive as a younger kid, and ignoring a lot of people is another big thing, because Billy Joe Green might try and tell you how to drive a race car, but he doesn't know what he's doing, so, or what he's talking about. So just
A
just
lot of the loudest mouths have probably never even
oh yeah.
strapped into a car of
Mm-hmm.
any kind, whether it be actually racing in a series or even just a driving school.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always the loudest mouths.
Yeah, just try and I see, I grew up watching a lot of Bowman Gray videos, and like on the History Channel they had the Madhouse, and I watched that a lot. And I think I actually learned mostly how to drive Bowman Gray from watching like old videos
Hmm.
and seeing how they drive the track, and how when the leaders get in the lead they lock it down, and you can't spin apart cars. One thing that I've learned. So just always try and gain knowledge when you're a younger kid, so that when you get the chance to move up, that you're ready. Um, that's a really big thing, is just making sure and being prepared that you're ready, and even being in shape. Like, this takes a lot.
Yeah.
A 200 lap race in the summers is a lot on your body, so it does take a lot. And just making sure your body's in shape, and just working hard and making sure your car's in shape too, is another big thing. Make sure that your car's prepared to go to the racetrack, and it's not your fault that something breaks. So just do the best that you can with what you got, and always have a positive attitude.
That's good. That's good stuff. Well, Ethan, I want to thank you for taking some
Mm-hmm.
time with us today. Wanted to give you a chance to maybe thank some of these people that helped make it happen. You're a smaller team and whatnot, so name them off, name them away.
Definitely want to thank Big B Coffee, Hickory Tree Road. They're really big help to my racing. Rob and Jody are great people, and I just love them to death because they help me live the dream, I guess. Local RE Josh Tackett, really good real estate company. They help me. Bill Racing Engines, they help me on some motors, and a really good race team, or a really good engine team. Or who else? BK Auto, Tony Black, Ashley Black, great people. Um, Maybe one day you'll have Bentley on the podcast or interviewing him. He's a great kid. Um, who else? And honestly, all of my help. My parents for letting me do it.
Yeah,
My
especially mom,
grandparents,
right?
yeah, mom and my grandparents for supporting me. Just all the support on Facebook really means a lot to me because after a bad weekend and all those Facebook comments like, well, you'll be better next week. And that helps out a lot. So just the support really helps out a lot. And just everybody that helps me in the shop, Bryce Nelson, Casey Quigley, all the help that I get from them cleaning the car after the weekends because it gets so dirty. And Bryce is a great spotter, so I thank him a lot. And I think that's about it.
Cool.
Just everybody that supports me. So.
All right. I always like to close these interviews in a prayer. I can
Mhm.
pray, or you can pray, or
Pray.
all right, we'll do it. Dear Lord, thank you for this time you've given us to talk with Ethan here, where he can share how you've helped him in his life and talk about what you've done for him and blessing him with the means to live out his dream, Lord. And just pray that this conversation can inspire and help any of the younger people that may come across it to keep chasing their dreams. And Lord, we just ask you to use this time and use this conversation to help bless the lives of those who watch it. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you for watching Fast Faith, where speed meets the spirit. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you go check out Ethan's Facebook page as well. Like and follow him. And we'll see you next time on Fast Faith. Thanks for watching.